Listen, there are fighters, there are survivors, there are people who overcome the odds, and we have done that despite the technical
Oh, we
difficulties
got
here.
Gilbert. There he
With
is.
our
There
guy
he is.
Gilbert Arenas,
Yes,
his new
sir.
podcast, which he hosts with Josiah Johnson. Gil's Arena airs live 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 11:30 Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern time, as part of the Underdog Content Network. It's available on the iHeartRadio app and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And with that, it is the three-time All-Star, three-time
There he
All-NBA
is.
performer,
Gilbert Arenas.
Gilbert Arenas.
Got to give it to him. Hey, I'm gonna tell you this, brother. You got the realest podcast I done heard. Like, it feel like I be on my back porch, like, and people be, the OGs is talking. You be kicking it real. Like, I'm like, I don't know how they let him get away with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
In fact, Gilbert. I was listening to your. I think it was 2 podcasts ago that you put out, where you were sometime in May when you talked about Ja Morant. Obviously, from your perspective and your experience, I thought it was fascinating listening to that conversation. If you could share with some of our fans, all our fans should go back and listen to it. I think it was about an hour or 50 minutes. But not that the whole podcast was about that, but the beginning of it was, and I thought it was really interesting. If you can give us, some of your thoughts on, like, your perspective on Ja Morant based on your experience in life and where you are now, and what your advice to him would be.
Just like you can see Zion, is going through it. I think sometimes, when we grow and, the adults are judging, we judge from our experience to where we are now versus who we were at that same age, right? So, some of the knucklehead things we did at 21, 22, 23, now you add 200 million, you add fame, you add the God mentality to it, it makes, individuals do dumb things. And as a person who was older than him doing stupid stuff, I can really say, right? He needs someone who's been in a situation, who's learned how to be a star. No one's taught him how to become a star. No one's taught him how to, embrace, this role of a face of something. So he's learning as it goes. And that's the problem. I think, the NBA or, mostly the NBA, because the kids are coming in younger, that there needs to be someone that teaches them how to be in this role. There's things you can't do anymore. You can't be normal. You can't go to the club. You can't hang out with certain friends. You just can't do certain things anymore because of who you are. And no one really teaches us that. We have to just live and learn. Everyone's not fortunate like Kobe was, where, he's going to the Laker organization. They've had Magic. They've had super mega stars. So they have a foundation to protect the image. Same thing with someone like LeBron. LeBron was, grateful enough to have, people around him that understood the bigger purpose. But for the most, no one has a team that's smart enough, that understands that there's a bigger goal than just right now being 21 having fun.
Gilbert, there's so many questions I would like to ask. I'm gonna go with a basketball question. I'm having very difficult time figuring out where Joker is at. Jokic obviously had an opportunity to become a 3-time MVP. He won a championship last night. His legacy seems to be all over the place. But one thing I keep coming back to is, do you think he would be perceived differently if he was black? Black basketball being an NBA sport where it's predominantly African American. If you reversed it and Joker was African American and he was doing what he was doing now, do you think he'd be perceived as at a higher level, or you think it would be the same?
I think it would be the same. You would think that he has more of an advantage because he's not black, but it's still the Tim Duncan type of game where it doesn't look appealing to the masses, right? The youth. So if he was in LA, it would be a little bit bigger. It would be a little bit, he's in Denver, Denver, Cleveland. Unless you are a high flying guy, is just not a sellable type of thing. When it comes to just his skill, listen, what he does great, right? When you're talking about a basketball player, he is a basketball player. He is the Tim Duncan. He is the Bird, the Dirt, the Karl Malone, the Michael Jordan after he started winning, the Magic Johnson. He is the legacy of what a true basketball player is. I think we've been so used to watching athletes go out and run, dunk, and fly, that when it comes to just the pure game of basketball, he is a basketball player, which is the reason he went in second round, because they don't know what they're looking at anymore. There, all these drills are one-on-one, one by himself. He's a 5-on-5 player. Put 5-on-5 and then tell him to be great. That's what he does. And you can't measure that in the draft.
Gil, we have a mutual acquaintance. Dave McMenamin, I know someone from your past who helped you with your blog on NBA.com, is a good friend of mine. We covered the Cavs together for 4 years when LeBron returned. And I texted Dave this morning and said you were coming on. He said to ask you about what you knew was going on behind the scenes in LA when they were trying to get Chris Paul and Dwight Howard.
So no one really knew. I was like in the middle of that somehow. So after the lockout,
this would have been 2011, right? 2011 lockout.
Yeah, 2011. Yeah. So I'm hearing. So I'm in Orlando. So I'm hearing about Dwight wanting out. Right, Dwight wants out of here. So he wants to go to LA. So because I'm getting amnesty, they're trying to figure out if they should amnesty me or force Los Angeles to take my bad contract and they have to amnesty me. On the other end, Chris Paul has made a little deal where he's in LA. So if you look at the timeline, I think Paul got rejected. I got amnestied. Dwight said he ain't coming back, right? So what ends up happening is Chris Paul is being traded for Odom and Gasol. It's a straight up trade, which means there's some money coming back to LA. And then on the back end is Dwight for Bynum. Well, all of it seemed great. It would have been a great deal. But I think what happened is when Mark Cuban found out how much money was left over for the Lakers, which is back then, you're talking about 24 to $25 million. You're talking about two max players if you start them off about $12 million each, right? So if you start them off at about 12 and a half, you could have got LeBron James and Bosh. Those are the that's how much money was left over. So you would have Kobe, LeBron James, Bosh, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul. You got the USA team. And then when Kobe's contract's up, that's another 24 million that's coming off the books, where they didn't even need Kobe at that point. They could have got, Durant and whoever. It would have been a 10-year window before anybody would have came close to competing with that group. And that's what that's what Mark Cuban complained about. We had a lockout. The lockout was about big names in small markets, and we're getting rid of them. And as soon as the lockout is over with, you get rid of Chris Paul, because the NBA owned the Charlotte Hornets at the time, or New Orleans Hornets at the time.
New Orleans, yeah. So that's why David.
The deal was over. Huh?
That's why David Stern rejected the deal, because they were afraid that the Lakers would open up 2 max slots then after the trade to go get top free agents.
No, the David Stern didn't give no cares about that. It was the rest of the owners
That's what I'm saying.
Who said,
yeah.
David Stern, listen, I don't know if it's like that in football or baseball, but when it comes to the NBA, Lakers, Chicago, Boston, the NBA is doing very well when those 3 teams are playing well. So, giving Lakers that Chris Paul and making that happen would have did great for the NBA. But the rest of the owners wasn't having it. Mark Cuban was not having that trade.
Yeah, but we know
That's
that
interesting.
the league doesn't give a shit about the Cavs, certainly here in Cleveland. But we care about the Cavs. We were excited about it last season. They trade for Donovan Mitchell. We're pumped. They had a really good regular season, but they flamed out in the playoffs. They lose to the Knicks. We thought they were better than the Knicks. Donovan Mitchell didn't play particularly well in the playoffs. Jared Allen completely disappeared. What do you think about this Cavs team? Is it a situation where we got to be patient and give them more time, although we're worried that Donovan Mitchell's going to leave? Or do you think they need to change things up to be a real contender in the playoffs?
Right now, you have Donovan Mitchell. Can you get a bigger guard for Garland, or get rid of Garland and get a guard that can play the two? You have great pieces. You want them to develop. I think we're in a stage where everyone thinks their team needs to be great right now. You have young pieces. You need to really everyone should really look at small market teams should look at actually what Miami did, even though Miami's a big market team, where no one's coming to save you. There's not going to be some miracle trade that'll happen. So you have to develop within. Those guys need to be on a you treat these kids like college teams, right? You're going to come in here 3-4 times a day. You're going to work on your skill. It's easy. We're in Cleveland. Where you going? 3-4 times a day. Let's get better today. The group is, very talented, very big. The problem is just unexperienced. In the playoffs, the regular season is like training camp. They're like training wheels, right? In the first round of the playoffs, just take it off and let's see what you can do. Everyone's paying attention to you. Everyone knows your scouting report. They know what you can do good. They know what you can do bad, right? They know all your plays. So when the playoffs happen, you have to be great. There's no room for being okay in the playoffs. You have to be great in the playoffs.
Gilbert, we've been through this a couple times. I get frustrated sometimes because the fans in smaller markets, they don't learn from their mistakes in the past. I tell people, these young kids, they're coming into the league and they got money. They want to be in certain cities. They want to move a certain type way. And we're like, oh, they're not looking. We're like, come on. No, we had LeBron, we had Kyrie. I can even say Carlos Boozer. He was like, I've been signed, but he rolled out. So my thing is, when you look at Donovan Mitchell and you got 2 years left, and he's sitting there talking to Jason Tatum after the game, hugging him, and I say, yo, these guys, he wants to tell you, I feel like I'm in that upper echelon. Do you believe that the Cavs would legitimately, if they don't win a championship or go to the finals, have a legitimate shot at keeping a guy like Donovan Mitchell, even though he's from New York?
And to be honest, it all depends on the player themselves, right? No one loved going to Toronto. All Americans hated Toronto. DeMar DeRozan loved Toronto, right? He was the diehard Toronto guy. Here's my advice for just all small market teams. You're going up against giants when you're talking about New York, when you're talking about Golden State, Miami's, Boston, Los Angeles, right? You're dealing with big markets. So what that means is there has to be systems inside the small markets that entices the player, right? Where he feels that the city is just as equal. If they got 20-inch screen TVs in the Lakers locker room, you might need 45s, right? You just you
Right.
need to overdo it on the little things, because that's where it is. It's really the little things, right? I was saying with a person like Dan Gilbert, right? You have situations in hotels and condos and things where you can build, and your freshmen or your rookies, first 4-year players can live there for free, You don't spend no money. It's on the team, right? That's saving the player money. That seems like, that's an advantage that the players have. It's like you have to really like roll down the red carpet when you're in small cities, and it really doesn't cost you much, and you have this player that really values what you did for him versus looking at money.
Let's go to Mikey McNuggets.
Gilbert, appreciate you working through these technical difficulties with us. Usually we wrap up at 1, but because we have an A-list guest like you, we're going a little longer. This is our overtime today, so appreciate you sticking on with us for a few minutes here. It's a two-part question, Gilbert. I know it's bad journalism, so bad job out of me already. But you played against LeBron for essentially a decade, and you saw kind of two different versions of LeBron. The beginning of his career, the super athletic guy, then you saw the beginning of his Miami career when he kind of embraced the villain personality. Which version of LeBron was better to you? And I heard you on a different podcast say LeBron was the smartest guy you've ever played against. Can you give us a little example of maybe what made him think about basketball and see the game in a different way than most people who ever walked this planet?
Yeah, see, when I consider myself a student of the game, right? I'm watching the details, the habits, human behavior. Like if I'm going right and he can jump. I know if I pump fake, he's going to get off the feet. Like, I look at all of that, right? So that was my gift, right? That I can look at game tape, process it fast in the game. So when I met LeBron, 18, 19, and I'm at his condo. I don't know if that was downtown. And I'm watching, he has the TVs on a wall with the TiVo inside of the TV. So he has screens inside screens. And he's watching two type of NBA games as on. He's watching girls basketball, high school basketball, soccer. Like, he's watching it all. He's like a computer that was just processing information. And I remember it was probably game 4, maybe. It was a game, and we was in Cleveland, and I think it was game 5. We're in Cleveland, and I'm watching game tape, trying to figure out how does he keep doing what he's doing, what's going on, and I caught a signal. And the signal was he decoys at the beginning of the game. So he Jimmy Butlers it at the beginning of the game. He gave a signal to coach and to take out Elgauskas. And when I seen him look over, they're subbing Elgauskas in, which made our coach sub out our big man. And when we did that, LeBron became very aggressive, which ended up happening at the end of the game when he's scoring his buckets. Our big man's not there because he took his big man out, and we just followed suit. Little things like that was catching my eye. And then watching his game, he stayed away from his weaknesses and only focused on his strengths, which is called intelligence, right? He's not trying to prove that he can do something that he's not good at yet. So while everyone's saying, oh, he's not taking the last shots, well, he wasn't good at it yet. So he wasn't going to force and lose games trying to prove everybody wrong. That is intelligence. So watching the development of him, when I say which player I like the best, I'll say today's LeBron, because now you have a guy at the end of his journey with all the information that he's processed over the years, and still using it, which still gives him the edge. Like, you're talking about a 39-year-old guy averaging 26, 27 points a game is just unreal. And I tell people, if this is what he looks like today, imagine what he was moving like at 2021. Sick.
It is crazy. Like, the only player I could think of that was still excellent at this age was Kareem, right? I mean, Kareem was great late into his third. Maybe not quite as great as LeBron, but he was great.
I mean,
into
Kareem-
his late 30s.
I mean, Kareem was great. I don't think he averaged 14, 15. I mean, this guy got
right,
averaged
but
30.
Yeah,
but like
he was at-
Kareem's
he was
the
at
only one in the
17.
conversation. I mean, it's absurd. As someone who played the game at such a high level, you were a great player. It's impossible for me as a regular fat guy to understand how LeBron can do this. But as someone that played the game at the highest level, how crazy is it that he's still this good at an age when almost every other great player is out of the game?
And when we're talking about different, like Kareem set in the block, right? He's a block player. So it's not like he's speeding through players, bullying through players, driving, blocking shots, running a fast break. I mean, he still is moving. I mean, when we're considering up and down speed, he still might be top 5 in the NBA, which is insane for his age. So when you're talking about slowing down and becoming a half-court player, what are we talking about? 42, 43? Like, even if he starts learning how to play the post and become a post player, he will have an advantage in that spot too when he slows down. So it's sickening, but it lets you know, like, how great he was. It lets you know, look at the teams he had when he went up against the Spurs, when he was going up against Boston, when he was going up against Detroit. It was literally a one-man show, and it was taking the 5 or the team to actually defeat him because he was just that much better than everyone else at what he was doing.
All right.
He was literally a Bugatti.
Nuts.
Compared to the rest of us.
I'm going to ask you, this is the final question before we get out of here. I think sometimes people be underestimating how good NBA players are, and they just naturally be like, oh, that guy's garbage. Who is the best garbage player you ever played against? Like like somebody who the public thinks is garbage, but it was unreal, and you were like, you don't know how good this guy was.
Okay, so Nick Young, right?
Yeah.
When I seen Nick Young work out, I remember calling my dad and said, Jesus, like the kid from the Valley, he mimics everything Kobe can do, right? Like fade away, up and unders. His natural thought process is unreal. If you ever seen Nick in the summer, he was dominating the league. Like the ones we're calling the GOATs, he was eating through. Same thing with someone like Ben Simmons. In the summer, in a few weeks, he will be destroying like he's always every year top 1, top 3 player in the summer. LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Booker, Kawhi, James Harden, Trae Young. Like, he is destroying these guys. It's, when you get to the NBA, it's the difference between being a hooper and being a basketball player. He's hooping. There's no rules. There's no structure. There's no coaching. There's no game plan. So he gets to just play his natural style, which is amazing. He shoots the ball. He does all that. I personally think his problem is depth perception. You play in, gyms and you get used to shots. When you open up arenas, I think it messes with, how far the rim really is. And I don't think he spends enough time in the arenas working on his shot. But, those are two players that people are like, eh. But, like, there's bench players in the NBA that will literally give you 50 a night.
Damn.
They go out there and give you. Like Jamal Crawford will go out there and give you 50 if you let him.
It is amazing. Some of the things you were saying there were reminding me of like when non-players are in movies and basketball movies. And I'm curious, when it comes to basketball movies, White Men Can't Jump, Hoosiers, Blue Chips, that new Adam Sandler movie, Hustle. What is the best or realistic basketball movie? One of those, or maybe there's something else I'm not even mentioning. Oh, we lost Gilbert.
He probably got a text. I'm hoping he pops back up in a sec. If not, he's coming. I'm hoping. We're guessing.
He hated your question.
He hated your question. He said they all sucked.
Because you didn't put he got game in there.
Oh, and
he's back. Yep, we got him.
He got game. I left out he got game.
I I loved every single one. I will say for a Hooper, Blue Chips, because it was real players.
Yeah.
Like you had all the real players in there, watching, I was a Penny fan then. So, watching Penny, watching Butch, right? I would consider that movie for just the hoop community, that one. But, Above the Rim will be a great one because of the actors.
Yeah.
Hoosiers is one of the original, movies. I like Mike because I was at the All-Star game when it was filming it.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. So I was like kind of in the movie a little bit as an extra.
Who was the white dude in Blue Chips? He was a real player, that guy? I can't think who that was. Like, he had Shaq.
The big guy, no.
No, he wasn't.
Uh,
The big guy, no.
Yeah, right.
Butch McRae was Penny.
Yeah, and then
Neon
Neon Boudreaux. Yeah. Boudreaux.
Yeah, not Neon. It was the guy from Indiana. No, he wasn't.
You had Bobby Knight in that. You had Rick Pitino. It was amazing. Gilbert, we thank you, man. Keep up the great work with your awesome podcast, the No Chill podcast, and
his new show. And let's plug it one more
ahead.
time because Gilbert was so helpful with us. It is the Gil's Arena, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 Pacific Time. It's Gilbert Arenas and Josiah Johnson, part of the Underdog Content Network, available on the iHeartRadio app and wherever you listen to your podcast. Gilbert Arenas, the legend. Thanks
you again.
Man.
Thanks,
Salute.
Thank you for having me.